Hello everyone, my name is Phawx. These are GameCube Joy Con controllers. So this product has been out for a little bit, but the company has recently reached out to me and asked if I was interested in reviewing these. And because I had just gone to the LTX Expo and I met up with Shank Mods, he actually showed me off his modded GameCube Joy-Con controllers. And I thought, you know what? I thought it would be worthwhile to go over these particular controllers to see if they actually operated how I thought they would operate. Typically, whenever you see these types of controllers, they would work in wired mode only and would not work in wireless. But I'm pleased to report that these actually operate as you would expect them to, insofar as when you put them in, there will be a wired connection to the switch itself. However, when you disconnect it, it automatically already pairs. So there's nothing that you need to do to actually establish that Bluetooth connection, much like Joy-Cons already work. Now, there are some caveats here. There are going to be times that it is going to want to update these Joy-Cons because it looks like something that it wants to update. However, it will fail gracefully and continue working after it has failed. So there's nothing really much to worry about there, but it's really neat to see in practice. Let's go ahead and start with the unboxing and general review of this video. First up, let's do an unboxing of the Nixie Wizard. Now, I've already played with this, so we're going to do a kind of a completely fake unboxing here. Okay, inside of the box, we're going to find the Nixie Wizard product menu outside of the controller itself, obviously, and we're going to look in here if you want to take a look at any of the function keys or turbo mappings for any of the back buttons that are on the controller itself. These are the additional buttons and features of the controller itself. For the most part, I only care that it operates as a GameCube Joy-Con controller, which it satisfies in that respect, and you can see that it's already on and powered on, and we can see that it has a backlight on the buttons itself, which is pretty wild to see. Now we're going to go over some of the features and functionality while covering how this operates against a GameCube controller itself. So go ahead and put the box on the side. All right, let's start getting into how this compares to a standard GameCube controller. So right here I have a GameCube controller, and there's a few things that are going to stand out here, and one of the things that I want to kind of talk about is how this kind of resembles a Wavebird more than an actual wired GameCube controller. However, the feel is still there. Now the big thing that we have to talk about is the analog triggers. Now these are dual stage. You can see that it goes down and you can hear the final button click. That is the dual stage trigger on the GameCube controllers, as well as there's no left bumper, but there's only a Z button, and that acts as your right bumper. Now on the Switch itself, there is no actual analog stick, so all of these are digital as they're supposed to be, which is how it is needed to be for the Switch, because again, there is no analog triggers on the Switch. So they've already gone ahead and done that for you, so it's going to operate as you think it would. The next bit that we want to talk about here is the analog toppers themselves. So there's a few things here. You can see that we have the octagonal cutouts on the outer rim here, so you can hear how that kind of circles around, and that's very, very similar on this controller as well. Now you can also opt to take out this circular pad and switch it for a clear circle if you wish, but I don't actually want to do that. That's included in the box, but that's not something I want. I kind of want to have that authentic GameCube feel, which does feel like that. Now the one thing I do want to notice is if you take a look at these analog sticks, you're going to notice a pretty big difference. This is more of a traditional N64 analog topper, which it was convex in nature. This opted for a more concave analog stick, and truthfully this is my preference. This outer ridged rim as well for textured grip. This is everything I look for in an analog stick itself. However, it feels weird and alien on a GameCube controller. Like when I hold it, it very much feels like a GameCube controller or a Wavebird controller. But when I put my thumbs on the tops, something feels very off. So while I can appreciate that these are analog toppers that ultimately I prefer for analog sticks, I think I would have much preferred for the authenticity of having the N64 analog topper over here and then the C stick, because that's just how it felt. So ultimately, while I can appreciate how this is, I think that I would have preferred authenticity over ergonomics here. The next bit that we have to talk about is the D-pad itself. Now the D-pad is a different type of mechanism that we have here. This is a bit of a domed. You can actually hear the dome switches underneath, whereas the GameCube has a membrane-based D-pad. Mine is kind of like old and worn out and is really mushy at this point. So this is not as good, but overall I wouldn't say that this D-pad is actually all that great, to be honest. When in use, it suffices for a D-pad, but not something that I look forward in an actual use of if I'm going to mainline as a D-pad. This is good for directionality use or if you ever needed to navigate menus and stuff, but in terms of actually using using. It's not something that I look forward in using it. Overall, I'd give this like a C+, a B- as a grade for a D-pad. Not great, but it is serviceable. The other parts that we have to mention here are the manual buttons. So here we have it on both sides because these controllers can come out and they operate much like a Joy-Con does. So you need to be able to set a macro button, so you'd press this and then a button for this back here. So you can map anything you want from this on this side and map it here. Likewise, you can do turbo buttons. All this is featured in the manual itself. Those are features and functionality that, to be honest, I don't find much use or need for. I suppose for accessibility purposes, it could be useful in that regard. Like if you didn't want to press any A button fast and you want a turbo button, fine, that's great. That's something you can look forward to. That's not something that I look for in any particular controller. I'm glad it's there. It's an add-on feature, as a value add, but we're going to be talking more about how it actually operates. Now, the big thing for me is that while this is pretty much close to a Wavebird or a GameCube controller, the big thing that I love is that it just operates like a Joy-Con. So we're going to go ahead and remove this part, and we're going to get this out of here. So this is the plastic mechanism that is here that will connect your Joy-Cons, much like the Dogbone controller does for regular Joy-Cons. So we're going to pull over my Switch OLED, my SWOLED over here, and we're going to go ahead and connect this. You know, let me go ahead and power it on just so you can see what it's like. So we're going to go ahead and get this here. You can see it basically just operates like a Joy-Con. We're going to go ahead and put this in over here as well. All right. So now what you have is a functional GameCube controller for the Switch. Now, the one thing that I do want to point out here is that if you try to update the controller, because what is going to be found here is that this is going to, from the Switch's perspective, this is going to think it is actually Joy-Con controllers. So what's really cool here is while you can charge the Joy-Cons themselves via USB-C here, you can actually also charge this by docking it in a dock. And when you see it docking, you see that it's going to be charging the controllers at the same time. Also, this fits into the dock no problem as well. So if you wanted something that operates like a Joy-Con, this is perfect. Additionally, if you wanted to take these out and have them operate like a Joy-Con, where you're kind of moving around in something like Switch Sports, this does work like a regular Joy-Con. So you can swing it around like you're going to be swinging a sword, and everything works as it should. So it's super cool. The other thing that I want to point out here is, I don't know if I can bring it up. We're going to talk about the, let me see if I can bring up the update. Okay, so if here we go to update controllers. Now it says some controllers can be updated. Now it's going to try to update controls and fail. And that's okay. If it fails, nothing really happens. It kind of just goes along. So there are some times, especially when I was playing like Wii Sports here, where it said, hey, we need to update the controller. I said, uh-oh. I pressed A and it updated and failed, but it didn't matter. It just kept on working after it tried to do that. So that's just something to be mindful of, that it will attempt to update, fail, but continue to work. So don't worry about if you see that happening. Let's go ahead and jump into my master mode Breath of the Wild save. So you can very much see how this is very much GameCube Joy-Con controllers. So if you had Joy-Con controllers and didn't find them very comfortable to use and wanted something that was a bit more ergonomic, or you just really loved how the GameCube controller felt, this is something that you're really going to like. Now, of course, the gyro works and everything is working here just fine. What's cool is that because they are Joy-Cons, if we go ahead and disconnect them, let's go ahead and bring out the kickstand here. We're going to go ahead and take that out, and we're going to take this out. Okay, so put that there. Okay, and now here I am working as it should. So you can see gyro is still working as it should, and you can just operate it as you wanted to, and everything just works because as far as this is concerned, these are Joy-Con controllers. So if you really wanted to, and you wanted to do the side controllers where you're kind of moving around like this, you can actually use this as a second player as well. So let's go ahead and see how that operates. Okay, so now while this would be absolutely absurd to do, you can absolutely do it. So you can go ahead and press left, right here. Okay, now this comes up here. So we're going to go ahead and press B to back out, B again. Now remember, this D-pad is basically just the Joy-Cons itself. So if you wanted to like navigate around, and then over here you're gonna go, let's go ahead and do Mario Kart. Oh, I need the cart, so I don't have that. So let's go. So now this obviously can operate just fine. But you have to remember that this is B, this is A, this is X, this is Y, or YX. Oh, that's interesting. This is the tilt game, but it still works with this one Joy-Con. Really interesting. So yeah, then we can go ahead and just join this together again. All right, there we have it. And this is connected, so we're going to go ahead and press home, and we'll go ahead and close this. So this is the only thing that you have to be mindful of, is that it can be a little bit confusing because we have BA and then YX. Now X would be at the top, so you might be pressing X up here expecting, because you expect Y over here. So that's the only thing that you really have to be mindful of. But for the most part, this operates literally like GameCube controllers that are Joy-Cons themselves. So overall, Nixie really nailed the entire package here in terms of what I think a lot of consumers' expectations are. So they wanted Joy-Cons that were like GameCube controllers, and they delivered on that respect. That's it for this particular review. Hopefully this was informative. As always, guys, thank you for your time, and thanks for watching.